Transit operates in the metro area, and we operate outside of the metropolitan area. We have 12 drivers. We're based on membership dues in part. Dues for FY21 are 51 cents per capita. That is based on the 2010 census. So whatever the 2010 census is for the city times 51 cents, and that's what your dues go towards. And those primarily go towards matching three of our primary programs: economic development, planning that we do, metropolitan transit or metropolitan transportation planning that we do. And we are a 2080 organization. You know, we're an acronym. Iowa Northland Regional Council of Governments, by the way, if you didn't know what INTRCOG was. We serve as an umbrella organization for a lot of different organizations in this area. One that the city is actively involved in, the Black Hawk Metropolitan Area Transportation Policy Board, MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization, again, another acronym. And then some of the other ones that we have more on a regional basis. So a little bit of our funding. Some people ask, well, where does your funding come from? We're a combination, federal, state, transit, and local funds. About 22% is those membership dues that we do collect, federal, and then state also. And that can vary from year to year depending on different contracts and things that we do have come in. A lot of the services which are identified on that handout and some of which are in the summary, basically we are an extension of city and county staff. That's a really good way to think about it. We do a lot of different types of planning activities depending on the expertise of the city. Our larger cities have their planning staff, but some of our smaller communities do not. So we do a lot of planning on their behalf, as well as in the metropolitan area as well. But we have a lot of different activities that we do: data services, GIS. We have a full service GIS department. Emergency preparedness, environment, housing, recreation. An example of that's Black Hawk, Cedar River Water Trail Master Plan that we're getting ready to wrap up. Something that we get involved in. We have a Safe Routes to School coordinator that works with area schools. And then shared services, which I'm sure some of you have heard about. So being elected mayor comes with being on committees for INTRCOG. Mayor and I have met a couple times. INTRCOG Board of Directors, which meets quarterly. Executive Committee, which meets monthly, and that's really my kind of like city council and staff. Executive Committee is a committee that I use to make decisions and help me move the organization forward on a monthly basis. We also facilitate the Cedar Valley Coalition. We go out to Washington, D.C. every year. Mayor and city staff are participants in that. And then MPO, that Transportation MPO Policy Board, the mayor is automatically on that. Technical Committee, city staff, we work with engineering, planning, public works. And then we have what's called Transportation Alternatives Committee, and that again is city staff. And that's a fund that is used for trails and those types of activities in the metropolitan area. The board, every mayor, I have 60 some bosses, I guess. Every mayor and chair of the Board of Supervisors in our region is considered a board member. Again, that meets core. They're really responsible for the election of those officers. They approve budgets, audit, membership dues, et cetera, as recommended by the Executive Committee. This is really exciting stuff. Just looking at it here. Per the bylaws, the mayor of Cedar Falls is an at-large voting member. That's just automatic. So whoever's mayor is a voting member of our Executive Committee. Again, they were responsible for setting the budget for both INTRCOG and RTC. They establish the membership dues each year. We do that on a yearly basis, depending on our needs. Set salary ranges, salary guide chart for each fiscal year for staff. They do my annual evaluation every year and do review and approve outgoing contracts for the agency. This is just a list of the Executive Committee members that we have. Mayor Waterloo, Cedar Falls, Shell Rock, Mayor of Independence are on our Executive Committee, as well as several of our Board of Supervisor folks. Black Hawk Metropolitan Area Transportation Policy Board, this is the MPO. Well, a lot of folks, well, what is that? Sometimes the MPO and Intercog are best kept secret in the metro area, we'd like to think, but that's where a lot of our planning and programming for transportation funds that we get through the federal government, through Federal Highway and USDOT, go through. That policy board is responsible for those planning and programming activities that we do on an annual basis. We have a long-range plan that we do. We have a transportation improvement program that we do, which really the transportation improvement program is kind of the implementation tool of long-range planning that we do. So, and there's been a lot of projects for Cedar Falls that have gone through that. Just an example, Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, that's those federal funds. We get about $3.4 to $3.5 million per year to program for highway projects. Since 1995, 12 projects. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's been about $20 million for the city of Cedar Falls. And those Transportation Alternative Program funds, 7 projects, a little bit over $1.3 million. So just an example of some of the projects that we've worked on. Highway 58 corridor study, we did start that process for the city, and we're part of the project management team. University Avenue corridor study, that did actually start out of our office 12 years ago. West First Street reconstruction, we've been involved in that. We've got funding through the MPO and that. Viking Road construction, Cedar Heights, Green Hill Road, and then some trail projects and a lot of others that I haven't listed here that we have been involved in and are still involved in. Just some other MPO activities. I said we do a long-range transportation plan, bicycle accommodation plan, the water trail master plan that we've been doing with the DNR, pedestrian master plan, trail wayfinding, the green signs that give direction, that came out of our office. Kyle and Cody, our transportation planners, worked on that. We did the complete streets policies for both Cedar Falls and Waterloo back when the Blue Zones was getting started. We did put together those complete street policies, and we still work on implementing those. Transit planning, I know you had Cody come in here a couple weeks ago and talk about some restructuring of the routes. That's something that we work with Met Transit. National Household Travel Survey, then the Safe Routes to School Outreach Coordinator. Again, we have a person that works with K through 8 schools. I know Jackie Shares is her name. She has been in some of the schools in Cedar Falls and will continue to do that. And basically that's working with getting kids to walk and bike to school, infrastructure-wise and safety-wise. So I went through a lot of stuff real quick on the handout. Really, I touched on a lot of things, but it just gives you an idea of some of the things and the impact that Intercog has had for the city and in the metro area. A lot of our things are done metro-wide, but I think a good example of what we can do, we do grant writing, Big Woods recreation areas. I think we wrote 8 to 9 REAP grants for that area, just one after another. So we've had a pretty positive impact, and we greatly appreciate the continued support from the city of Cedar Falls. We enjoy working with the city of Cedar Falls and look forward to that in the future. So any questions?
I'll turn it over to council if there are any questions. Okay,
Awesome.
Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is a pavement management discussion with City Engineer Dave Wicke and Engineer John Fitch. Would you like to come forward?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, Dave Wicke, City Engineer, and let's see if I can get to next presentation here. All right, so I'm going to give a presentation here for our city's pavement management program. I'm going to do the introduction, kind of the high-level overview of the program, and Then later on, John's going to present more in detail our specific 2021 plan. So having said that, I'll jump right into it. So our pavement management program is a program that gets funded every year by our local option sales tax. So this is what our local option sales tax goes to. Restoration of streets and complete street reconstruction. So on that first slide that, I'm not sure, but got advanced forward. Complete reconstruction is a complete reconstruction of either concrete pavement or complete asphalt pavement reconstruction, where we basically, we're going to tear out the street due to age, deterioration, whatever. Most of these streets are in desperate need of like a major repair, and those will get a reconstruction of either concrete or asphalt. And the idea of that is that it'll, basically we're putting in a new pavement. That pavement design life is around 25 years for a concrete pavement. For asphalt pavement, that typically will provide a new pavement life from anywhere from between 15 and 20 years. Up on the slide, you can see the approximate cost per square yard for concrete pavements is around $130 a square yard, and hot mix asphalt, it varies depending on the type of repair, the pavement section, and all what would go into that. Let's see if I can advance this slide here onto the next. I don't. Into the slideshow. There we go.
And does the clicker work?
There we go. I think the clicker. There we go. Perfect. Very good. All right. That was the introductory slide. Just the difference between reconstruction and restoration. A restoration is like a typical mill and overlay. We'll mill off the asphalt pavement, and then we'll overlay it with a new asphalt, typically 3 inches, and that will extend the life of that existing pavement. You know, we try to get 10, 15 years out of that extended pavement life with a restoration project. Again, the reconstruct is a new pavement, ripping out the existing pavement and putting in a new one, and hope to get 25 years life out of that new pavement. I went through the cost, the difference between concrete pavement and asphalt pavement. So I'll jump into the next slide. And some of the things that we look for. So every year, staff goes out and we drive the entire city and we evaluate the pavements and we assign different a pavement condition index based on all the streets we drive, and then we prioritize rate of deterioration of these pavements, and then we implement those based on critical needs, and basically that's how we put it into like our 5-year program. So we put together a 5-year program based on our pavement evaluation, and we can constantly, like I said, we constantly update that every year because we go and drive the streets every year, and it's just a continuing process of doing that. So some of the distresses that we'll typically see is, you know, fatigue, cracking, wear, busted panels in concrete pavement due to lots of times it could be anything underneath that pavement. Has to do with maybe the subsoils are in poor shape, but there's a lot of reasons why, you know, over time pavement just wears out. It gets to the end of its design life, and we look at doing these types of repairs. Moving on. Okay, so since 1991, when the local sales tax was implemented, we've done approximately 42 miles of street reconstruction, approximately 104 miles of restoration projects, and 4.2 miles of miscellaneous projects. That would be perhaps like some street intersection improvements and just miscellaneous things that wouldn't be like a full street type of construction. So, so you can see since 1991, we've done a whole lot of projects, 150 miles worth of pavement improvement since the local sales option tax was implemented back in 1991. So since 1991, we've gotten to that point now where we've almost come full circle. We've done a large portion of the streets in the city that needed these types of either reconstruction or rehabilitation, and now we're getting back to that. You know, we're at that 30-year mark. We're looking to go back to redo some of those streets again. We do incorporate the Complete Streets program when we evaluate these streets. So part of that is, you know, we evaluate safety and trails and sidewalks and other transportation use. And these are all factors that we incorporate into our design when we go and put together the planning and the design for these streets. The Complete Street Policy was a policy that was passed by resolution in 2009, and it encourages streets to be compatible with the budget. 2013, the resolution was adopted for the street policy, and we do go by a checklist when we are designing out these streets. So that's kind of like a high-level general overview for our pavement management program, and John's going to get into more specifics for specifically our 2021 plan, and then he'll touch on like our ongoing like 5-year plan. So with that, I will turn it over to John. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dave. So yeah, we'll move quickly through what is going to be the 2021 through 2025 plan. I'll spend a little more time on the 2021 with 22 through 25, basically just listing off what is currently the intention to move forward on these streets. As Dave has mentioned, we look at every street every year, and sometimes as we start looking 2 and 3, 4 years out, sometimes those streets end up moving forward. So hard to see a little bit, but we've seen this before, but we have streets from a recon and a rehabilitation kind of scattered throughout the city. You might notice that there's not much, if any at all, down the southwest corner of the city. Those are a lot of your newer developments, and they're not part of the 150 miles that Dave has already mentioned. Those are part of the 200 plus miles that we have within the city. Those will start catching up to us soon, and we'll actually probably be doing some of those overlays on those streets in the very near future. So in 2021 for reconstruction, that's complete replacement of the street. We have West 18th Street from Campus to College, Brandolin down the south side from the west cul-de-sac by Blaine's to 750 foot east. We also have McLean Drive from Orchard to Maplewood. As well in the asphalt section, those that are currently asphalt, we have Olive Street from 3rd to 6th, Madison Street from Bell to Victory, and Clearview from Primrose to Orchard. With all of these streets, we work with Cedar Falls Utilities every year to determine if there's any current infrastructure that needs updated. And then we'll also note as we go through the future years that some of these, including West 18th and McLean and Olive, are all part of a multi-phased project. So we try to limit it to 2 blocks at a time. So these are very similar that you've already seen, but very distressed asphalt in this situation. And we'll see that over and over as some of these have been from 1991, 1993. That's when we did a lot of asphalt overlay, and it's time now. You can already sense that we're at 30 years that we've gotten out of these asphalt overlay projects. So West 18th Street, Campus to College, this is part of a 3-phase project. The other 2 phases will come in 23 and 24. This is about a 35-foot width roadway, The last overlay was done in 2001. We currently have sidewalk on the south side of the road, and that's probably what we'll leave that street as, is 35 foot with the sidewalk on the south side. This section of roadway here will get sharrows as part of the bike plan that Dave previously talked about. Then move on to Brandolin. Brandolin is not a really old section of road. It's about 20 years old, but it's taken a lot of wear and tear through the 20 years with all the construction down in that area. Part of Andrea Drive was just reconstructed as part of the Highway 58 Highway 58 reconstruction. So with all the heavy volumes from Walmart, Menards, Blaine's, et cetera, we're going to have to reconstruct that. We're past the ability to even do an overlay at this point. So that'll be a heavy section of concrete. Moving on to McLean. This is a phase 1 of 2 with the next phase in 2023. I'm not going to repeat all the ages, but again, this is another overlay done in 2000. And also in 1991 was Orchard to Lilac and Lilac to Maplewood, was actually an overlay in 2000. This currently does have sidewalk on both the north and south sides, and so we will just be replacing the road as it is and look to add sharrows to this section of road. Olive Street. This is a phase 1 of 2 with a second phase scheduled for 2022. This asphalt overlay was done in 1993. This street here does have a fair amount of storm sewer infrastructure needs, and so that's something that we're going to be looking at closely, is how we can improve some of that storm sewer. Madison Street, this is a unique street in that it doesn't even have a standard crown in the road. It's a cross slope, one side to the other, of upwards of 4%, and that overlay was done in 1993. No sidewalks currently, and so that's something that we would look at as part of our project next year to add sidewalk or not. We look at that on every street project. And then we have Clearview from Primrose to Orchard. This is a continuation from 2018. We were to the south to Valley High Drive, and so again, older, quite a old street, 1991 overlay. And then we have our restoration streets for 2021, LeClaire Street from West 1st Street to Lakeshore Drive, Iowa Street 9th to 11th, Longview from Center to Central, and Tremont from 12th to 14th. Usually these include curb and gutter spot repairs and then either a mill and overlay or straight up like a 3 or 4 inch overlay. And then LeClaire on this section of road does not currently have a curb and gutter section, and so that's something we will add in for stormwater conveyance. So those are the main ones I wanted you to think about because we are going to be looking for a motion just to move forward with 2021 design next year. Quickly going through 2022, these are the streets that we're looking at doing. Olive Street is a continuation, as I mentioned, from the 2021 project, but it's West 22nd Street. That's from College to Campus. We have Walnut Street, 18th to 21st, Timber Drive, West Ridgewood Drive, Madison Street, and Olive Street. 2022, the restoration is West 17th, College to Walnut, Pheasant Drive, Sandalwood Circle, east 500 feet, Caspin Place, Terrace Drive, and Elmwood Avenue. When we get back into the reconstruction in 2023, you'll see West 18th Street, that is phase 2. And then we also have McLean Drive, that is the second phase, continuing up to University Avenue. Then we also have Summit Drive, East Ridgewood Drive, and Woodland Drive. Restoration, a lot of different streets. These would be, again, mostly overlays or mill and overlays. State Street, Pin Oak Drive, Nordic Drive, Hudson Road, Green Hill Road, and Veralta Drive. 2024 reconstruction, again, we're starting to get pushed out there a little ways. College Street, 9th to 12th, the last phase of West 18th out to Hudson Road. We have Lakeshore Drive, Greenwood Avenue, and Edwards Avenue. And then we have restoration of West Viking Road, Lincoln Street, Ridgeway Avenue, and Murner Avenue. And then we get out to 2025, College Street, Carlton Drive, River Ridge Road, Cherry Lane, Greenwood Avenue, and finally restoration, Lincoln, Lone Tree Road, Cadillac Drive. So you might have started to notice that the number of restoration streets are starting to go down because we're doing more of the reconstruction, which costs quite a bit more money to do that effort. So with that being said, as we did the last meeting on October 21st, we would be looking for the council approval to move forward with the 2021 final design for the streets that were mentioned. And we'll answer any questions.
Thank you. So this does require a motion. Is there a motion to approve?
So, second.
I'll open it up for council questions. Okay, please?
I don't have a question on the 2021. It would be more for some of the other components of that. So if you want to do this motion first, vote first, and then come back to the question? Or how do you want to do it?
Well, we have to go through the discussion from council.
Well,
after.
okay.
It's fine to go ahead.
Okay. I was looking at, on Hudson Road, my understanding that the 8th Street intersection has a higher amount of traffic, that because of that, it throws the lighting out of sync. And I wanted to see where we could look at a potential roundabout in the schedule going, I know 23 is a ways away, but time flies. Maybe footnote that and discuss it at some point, or how do we handle a potential change and just doing an overlay instead of wasting the money on an overlay? Let's take the money for that intersection in particular, see what it would cost to do a roundabout in there, knowing that that traffic is heavier.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that for the next time we come back to you.
Because I understand that shouldn't affect the 2021 at all.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
So with that motion, I'll also open it to the public if anyone wishes to comment. Yes, Mr. White.
Council, yes, I'd like to thank you for serving our city and like to welcome the new council members and new mayor. I'm Luann Alameo. I serve on the Pedestrian Bike Advisory Board, and we wanted to bring to your attention a couple of things on this 2021 plan. With the campus to College Street, there is on the master plan for 2017 that there is a dedicated bike lane that is from campus to college, and we want to make sure that that is completed as such, as is shown on that plan. And that's why we are here tonight.
And I am Roger White.
I'm sorry, Roger.
And Luann is co-chair of the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee right now. I have been previous chair.
Yes.
And so that's why we
Mike McCallum was not able to make it this evening, and so Roger,
got to be the
Roger's here.
designated hitters.
yes,
Okay, so as I understand, there originally was in the plan to do
Yes.
designated bike lanes, and what's
Yes.
being proposed for the rebuild or the
Yes.
build is Sharrows, which is not a separate bike lane, but simply is a shared
Yes.
access.
we know from research, all of you, that when it is available, and I just got some new research today, that 30% of our population will use it if it's there. That's minimum. We'll use it if it's there. If it's not there, it's not going to be used. The other statistic I want to give you, and most of you know me well enough, I come from a wellness and health standpoint. And from people who are going to walk or bike to work 5 days a week, we're going to have a reduction of heart disease and heart attacks by 11% in a year, if it's available and they use it. We already know 30% will use it if it's there. So I just want to state that for you.
And if I may add just a little bit, the dedicated bike lane versus the Sharrow is, we believe, considerably safer. It's more comfortable for the rider. The problem with the Sharrow is that motor vehicle drivers think that they can share the lane at the same time in the same place, and that crowds the bicyclists all the way over to the curb. It also is a very uncomfortable feeling, and as a result of that, people avoid riding. And so, since the most recent plan that I have, a copy of the map, which is dated in 2017, and there may be more recent ones, I don't know, this is the one I've been using. It shows the blue dotted line on 18th Street from College to Hudson Road, and the legend, a blue dotted line, is a dedicated bike lane.
Okay, thank you. So I'll ask if we could have a comment back from either Mr. Wiki or Mr. Fitch about that. Was there a reason to switch back out of the plan for a designated bike lane, or through staff? Certainly.
I might be able to address that. So 18th Street, if you recall, I know a majority of the council members recall West 12th Street reconstruction. We've done it over the last approximately 3 years. Similarly, West 18th Street is 35 feet wide with parking on one side, and to fit a dedicated bike lane in there wasn't enough width. We need 37 feet, very similar to 12th Street, so we would actually have to add pavement width. And at that time on 12th Street, that's something that would have to come from a different funding source, or it could remain at 35 feet wide if we wanted to eliminate parking on one side. So that is kind of the direction that we had from 12th Street. We wanted to propose keeping it similar with a Sharrow on this section, unless we wanted to revisit eliminated parking or widening the roadway.
Okay.
Excuse me, but I don't believe there is parking on 18th Street.
On this section between campus and college.
And I'll have to ask you for no further comment, since this is public comment and then section, but certainly can answer the questions here or after as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a completely separate issue as an individual. Would you like me to seek recognition separately for that?
I'll allow that.
Okay. Well, I've already introduced myself, so maybe I don't do that again. But speaking as myself, as an individual, our neighborhood, that is the neighborhood near Hartman Reserve in Cedar Heights, has very narrow, non-traditional streets, and it's part of the character and, quite frankly, the charm and the appeal of our neighborhood. These streets go back to when it was a village, prior to when it was annexed into the city of Cedar Falls. And we would not want, at least the people that I've talked with, we would not want traditional streets in our neighborhood. However, because of the age and the type of material that was used in the construction, our streets are decaying pretty rapidly. And we, as a neighborhood, appreciate the fact that several of these streets in our neighborhood have been put on the plans in the out years. Speaking from myself particularly, and for my wife, our family, we drive Greenwood Drive one way or the other, either way we leave from our home, and I'm not sure that that's going to make it to 2025 or 2024, which is when it's proposed. So what I would like to request is that if there's any way those streets could be moved up a little sooner in the plan, I would appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Staff will take note of that. Any other comments from public? Okay, then I'll turn it back to council for discussion. Councilor Cruz?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. My understanding that the bike network map is dated to 2015, and I think it's time that we should take a little closer look at some of these locations of some of these streets, or bike trails, and whether they're shared or dedicated. And the one thing in particular in my mind is the presentation that we see quite often of Main Street having a dedicated bike lane, when in fact 2 blocks to the west we have Clay Street that has 2 dedicated bike lanes, and then State Street is redone in a very good bike lane. So we need to revisit this, and I'd like to, whether we entertain a motion to do so or get it on a schedule to take a closer look at some of these things. The bike trails and bike lanes on 12th and 18th, they're some of the busiest collector streets, and I wonder, is it wise to have those as our bike trails? Should we have 11th or 17th or some other way? Because we're trying to displace vehicles that they're meant to be on the street, and bicycles do not do well in a collision with a vehicle. So as far as safety and that sort of thing. But should I make a motion then to review or get on the agenda?
Well, we are in a motion already, so could you offer an amendment to the existing?
Well, mine's a little bit separate than the street reconstruction. I'm kind of,
Okay, so that would be a separate topic then. We wouldn't entertain that as part of
do
this
that-
motion.
do that as a referral.
That sounds appropriate.
Okay.
So there is a motion on the floor to approve the 20 to 21 plan as provided.
Mayor, if I may,
Certainly.
can Mr. Schrage clarify the parking question that Mr. White had when he was cut off there?
That is something we'll have to look into. I'm looking at the slide here, and I can't tell if there's parking on it or not, but looking as the corridor as a whole, remember, West 18th is a series of years that we're doing, and I know that there is parking on sections of 18th where it won't work. So whether it works in this section or not, it's not going to work in others. So we have to set a consistent corridor, and this is the one that would work throughout the entire corridor, and that's why it's presented that way.
Any other discussions? Thank you.
I would just add then, I think this discussion and past construction that we've done that hasn't been consistent with our bike plan, I think it will be appropriate to have more discussion about, are we implementing our bike plan with integrity, or is it just something we have out there that looks nice to be a bike-friendly community? And
Just piecemeal.
We've evolved with our bike transportation over the years, but I'm not sure that we've kept up with what it should be. So I like the idea of revisiting and making sure our bicycle users are a part of that conversation. But I would second that when the time comes.
Thank you, Councilmember Dara. Anything else? Yes, Councilmember.
To jump on that point, I think it's, as that conversation happens, assuming it will, I hope that we can clarify some of these details up front for the task force as well, from staff, understanding that if we've got a 35-foot road, here's what this is going to take. So everybody knows those things up front, rather than having, here's our wish list. I think we can do a better job of clarifying for folks that this is what that's going to take if and when the time comes. The council's going to have to vote for this increase, and this is, a potential cost that may be there. I think we can do a better job, so.
Okay, any other, yes, Councilor DeBoer.
Since you mentioned it would require widening it by 2 feet, that sounds quite expensive to me. Can you tell me approximately how much that would be?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but there will be a significant expense with moving utilities that are right behind the back of curbs, street trees, those types of things.
Thank you, great discussion. Anything else? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the 2021 plan as provided. It's been motion seconded, requires a roll call vote. Or it does
No,
not
it's just
require.
a-
Okay, this requires a voice vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. So that covers that section, and we move into now Washington Street reconstruction update. And with that, we also have John Fitchford.
Okay, back on October 21st at the council meeting, we presented the pavement management 2020 plan. And at that time, we presented Washington Street, and we had indicated at that time that we were going to consider going from a one-way to a two-way as a part of the completion of this next phase of construction from 6th to 8th. and we said that we would come back to you with where we were at. So we have had one public information meeting. We've had a number of meetings with Ms. Hackett at St. Pat's School. And so this is going to be strictly on the reconstruction from 6th to 8th Street, as we would also be looking at converting from one-way to two-way. But on the bottom section is the bottom half of this slide, you'll see 6th Street to 7th Street, and then it's a continuation up on top to finish out to 8th Street. We do have the 5 parking stalls that were kind of asked for from Ms. Hackett, 4 of those being standard stalls and 1 being an ADA. And then to the west of those parking stalls, we do have a bus drop-off similar to what we have today. And then what we did is we have included now bump outs on West 7th Street on the west side of the road, very similar to what you see on 6th Street. So it's kind of a continuation 1 block to the west. And at that, we are now looking at a 4-way stop with a flashing red beacon, and then we have the crosswalks. And I'll explain some of that as we move ahead. We do have some drainage issues in 8th Street. So right now, we're going to stop just short of there because we can't get the water from the stormwater conveyance standpoint down to 10th. So we are picking up just on the east side of the intersection there, kind of where the green box is at. And then we are, the water's sheeting to the north from that point, and we have a couple of additional storm sewer intakes. With that being, this next slide, this would kind of depict, doesn't change a whole lot, but this would depict with the yellow lines the 2-way with the 4-way stop at West 7th Street, as well as the stop signs at 12th. And then, of course, we have the stop sign at 18th. When we start to look at these 2-way conversions, we are looking at what a lot of other communities are doing. Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, Dallas, Denver, Kansas City, all sorts of communities. I'm most familiar with the Cedar Rapids and their conversion. The 2-way streets, of course, at the time were put in to get a lot of traffic in and out of downtown as fast as possible. When the Highway 58 bypass essentially came along, that took away a lot of that traffic that used to come through the main street and the downtown. And so what a lot of communities are trying to do now is why encourage people to come in and out of your community as quickly as possible, but why not make it more of the neighborhood feel and slow them down? And so that is kind of what we've been looking at, is even with this last slide of the bump outs. That is a natural way to slow people down. And so that's one of the reasons we're considering that. So we did do traffic counts back in November. The stop lights were not warranted. The 4-way stop technically is not warranted. However, after working a number of meetings with Ms. Hackett at the school, we decided that the 4-way stop would be a good solution to, again, the slowing down of traffic and helping with the students that pass through, usually on the west side and the south side of the intersection about every 30 minutes throughout the day. So again, that's kind of where we're looking at for stop signs and the traffic control. I've noted that, let's see here. Anyway, there's a lot of traffic calming that goes with the 2-way, and that's why we have some of these as pros. And right now we have the one con. Now you may say there's certainly more cons than that, and some of those are perception. But what we do know from studies is that 2-way streets are safer. 1-way streets correlate to decreased level of driver attention. It also typically brings higher speeds, and the one-way streets allow those higher speeds with less stops. The constricted feel makes people want to slow down and pay more attention. Pedestrians prefer crossing two-way streets as the drivers tend to travel more slowly and the vehicular conflicts are more predictable. And we even heard it from at least one resident, more intuitive and less chance for driver error going up a one-way street, being that this is the last one in the downtown area. Two-way networks allow drivers to take the most direct route from their origin to the destination. As I mentioned, intuitive and easier to navigate. And then in talking to Public Works, the sanitation pickup is going to be much easier with the two-way conversion as well as snow plowing. Now again, the cons, we do know that actually haven't heard it from the churches, but there is currently church parking in the east lane or the one southbound lane adjacent to the Catholic Church. And so what they do is they shut that down, or there's signs up there from 3 p.m. Saturday till 1 p.m. Sunday that does allow you to park adjacent to the curb, essentially reducing it down to one lane. So it would not be, parking would not be allowed on that one side. So what we are looking for, again, is a motion to two things. One is to approve the final design of 6th Street to 8th Street on Washington, and then also to look to go from a one-way to a two-way from 6th Street to 18th Street.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up for council for questions to staff. Oh, forgive me.
You need a motion.
Needs to be a motion first. So is there a motion to approve the design of this from 7th Street?
Motion to
moved.
approve.
Okay, motioned and second.
Second.
And now I'll open it up to council questions. Council groups.
How many parking spots will the church be using or the public be losing on this conversion? Do you know offhand?
You get roughly 10 spots, 9 to 10 spots per block. And I believe there are 3 blocks between 6th to 9th Street they allow parking.
30
So as a
spots.
part of this, if we get the approval to move forward with the two-way, is that we will be coming back to council for some ordinance changes due to the parking both on Washington Street and West 7th Street.
Councilor Sires?
The area there, when you do your bus pickup, would all be one side, so everybody would be passing, and you wouldn't have the two-way traffic as buses sat there. And that would probably actually be safer than making it two-way traffic, having the buses pull over to the side to pick up and drop off kids. You would always have that constant one direction,
So
instead of having two ways down through there. It seems to me to be safer to have it one way. And that's what the majority of the people I understand in that area that deal with that would like to have it as. They would like it to continue to be one way, at least by the schools, and have those lights there also, instead of just stop signs.
So I guess I'm not following the bus parking.
When the buses pull up and drop off the kids,
Yeah, and then they sit there all day.
that's like, then the passing cars going the same direction will be on the other side, going that direction.
Just like they are today.
Exactly like they are today. That's what I'm saying. I'd like to see it kept the way it is, at least by the school and the next block. Because then you have traffic lights to control, not just stop signs. And the most important thing is to protect these kids when they're getting in and out of school.
I'm not sure how the one-way versus two-way,
Well, if you pull buses over to the side and then have two-way traffic next to them,
yeah,
now you have 3 sets of cars on that street.
just like you have today.
It'd be just like you have today. It's a one-way street when you turn there.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, it seems that there's definitely some concerns over this with the St. Patrick's School, and there was a very well laid out email, and I'm just wondering, have you met with the St. Patrick's School? Have we spent time, investigating, making sure, seeing their side?
Yes, so at least 3 times we've sat down and talked to Ms. Hackett. With the most recent, Dave and I were just down there, must have been last week because it was right after school started. So we've sat with them, we've even talked to the Lego League, which a couple of the representatives are here, about what this proposed change was going to be. So yes, we have talked to them multiple times. And we've also been in conversations to representatives from the Methodist Church who are in favor and support of it, the 2-way conversion.
Councilmember Miller?
To clarify, Ms. Hackett, I think you mentioned?
Yeah.
She's the principal or super?
Principal.
Okay. I believe the email that Councilman Cyrus was referring to came from somebody else who attends the school, but I don't believe, or at least I haven't received anything from the principal, but you have met with her several times from the sounds of
in
it.
person 3 times, and then we had the public information meeting that she was attending.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
we had a good turnout for that as well.
Sure. And I believe to Councilman Cyrus' point, you guys were kind of saying the same thing, but he was saying you've got 2 lanes of traffic. When the buses pull over, there's 2 lanes of traffic going in the same direction. And your point was when the buses pull over on a 2-way, it's still 2 lanes of traffic. They're just going in opposite directions, and the kids aren't crossing either of those to get out of that bus door and into the school.
That is correct.
Right.
And
Councilmember Cruz?
If you watch the traffic, the student traffic, they go to the south on the west side of the road and then come across on the south side of the intersection.
Sure.
Councilmember Cruz?
I'm thinking of, like others have mentioned, with the dropping off of kids, and I think of Cedar Heights Elementary, the street to the south, which is Hawthorne Drive. That is a 1-way street in town as well, with, I'm assuming the reason it stayed 1-way over the years is for dropping off kids. Parents drive in, the kids get out of the passenger side and they're onto the sidewalk for safety. I don't know if anybody can comment why that's maybe one of the last 1-way streets in town besides this.
I can't answer on that one, maybe Chase or someone, but I can tell you that all the parents drop off the kids on West 7th. That's where their designated loading, unloading is for the students. I don't know, Chase, do you got anything on Cedar Heights?
I don't have any additional information at this time on Cedar Heights, but a lot of these areas we'll be looking at the conversions when we get to those streets, when we do any type of maintenance or reconstruction. So that's another one we'll evaluate because I know Cedar Heights has the drop-off in front of the school there.
Actually, it'd be Hawthorne, the street right behind.
Yep,
If
it's a
you co-
one-way in the westbound direction. I'm
It's
familiar.
like 2 blocks, 3 blocks. Yeah, okay.
Okay, any other, Councilor Harding?
Is the principal in favor of the 2-way conversion, or is she, has she said one way or the other?
She has not said one way or the other, but she has been looking to us for that advice, and that's why we started off as flashing beacons similar to what we have on University Avenue crosswalks. And between the public information meeting and Miss Hackett, Hawthorne, Miss Hackett, she was very much in favor of this 4-way stop.
Okay.
With the flashing red beacons.
Is there a rush to do this? I mean, is there a way that we can make sure we thoroughly hash out that all angles have been looked at, that we've made sure that if we have to make a compromise this way or that way? Because my kids go to Cedar Heights and I drop them off on Hawthorne on the 1-way, and I haven't had a chance to go out there and check it out and examine at school times, but I know that if they wanted to make Hawthorne 2 ways as a dad that drops off their kids every day, I wouldn't be too happy about it personally.
So is there a rush? No. The reason we looked at it was because of the reconstruction of 6th to 8th. It was decided to look at the entire corridor at this time. We can move forward with the design of 6th to 8th Street as it is without the 2-way conversion.
I saw Councilmember Miller's first.
I just want to say I appreciate you guys trying to find compromise with the school and with parents and having the public meetings and such. I think I can speak for everybody that nobody wants to see a kid get hurt in the city, but I think there's varying degrees all over at several of our elementaries that, depending on your angle, you know, people get concerned about kids crossing streets. Center Street is one in particular where there isn't a stop sign. There's a flashing yellow light, and we've got a guard out there. And I think trying to balance all of the efforts of obviously getting kids to school safe, doing the bump outs, complete streets, and all of these other angles to it. I appreciate the work you guys have done trying to find a compromise.
Councilmember Cyrus.
I'd just like to see it kept as a one-way and use the traffic lights that are there. The stop signs just doesn't seem as safe as having somebody that has to come to a stop with a stoplight.
So that goes into more the council discussion. I would like to just open it up. We have some members from the public here tonight.
You got one more.
But prior to that, Councilor DeBoer?
Just one quick question. You mentioned Lego League, but I wasn't sure what you were referring to on that.
There's a couple individuals that are, they'll probably speak tonight, that they've also been looking at the whole, the block, we'll call it, and safety to and from the gym, to and from the library. How can they make that block a little bit safer? So that's why I said they asked to talk to us, and they shared with us their presentation that they took to state, and then we shared with them what we have been looking at doing.
And was it similar?
I don't know if they were disappointed that they wanted to put parking on Washington Street and flip the buses and the unloading for the students. So there's some pros and cons to that as well.
Thank you.
I will open it up for public comment. So if you'd like to come forward, and I'll need to know your name and address for the record, except for the kids. Let's not do that.
Thank you for your time. My name is Janet Willett. I live at 716 Winter Drive in Cedar Falls. I have been humbled the last 4 months to be coaching a junior or a Lego League team from St. Patrick's. Our students were asked to look around their community and pick a building or a public space and improve it. A group of 10 children, grade 4th through 6th, chose school safety drop-off as their problem that they identified that they wanted to improve. These 4th through 6th graders worked so hard to study the problem, to gather data from parents, to talk to the city engineers, and they were so excited about their proposed changes. When they looked at the congestion of 7th Street, where the parents do drop off, we have quite a few parents. The majority of our students are dropped off by parents, not by buses. Washington Street is where the buses drop off. It is a two-way. It is calm. It is good, or it is a one-way. 7th Street is a two-way where there are cars parked on both sides. There are cars trying to drop off. There are cars driving back and forth. And these students saw that that was a problem. And they proposed solutions of trying to trade that to get the parents to the more calm one-way Washington. They were very discouraged when they found out that the city was looking at turning that into a two-way. They are asking, and I'm speaking on their behalf, for you guys to continue to study this area, okay? I know that they have been in contact with Mrs. Hackett. We're asking for more due diligence, that the city engineers reach out to the school board and to the parish council, who would lose quite a bit of parking on the weekends and with all of our activities. We are happy after the public meeting that the first proposal, when it removed the stoplights, was only a blinking light with a pedestrian crosswalk. And we are thankful that they at least changed it to a four-way. But again, the stoplight and the safety crossing there does seem to work. And we're asking you guys to just study this more, to talk more to the parents, to talk more to the school board and to the parish council, to make sure that before you guys make any changes, that we're taking the safety of school drop-off. The times to study our school and to look at the safety are in the morning at drop-off and at pickup. 7th Street is the problem street. Washington is what they modeled as being a calm and a safer street.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I'll turn it back over to, oh, yes, sir. Please come forward to the mic, just so we can hear you on television as well. And state your name and address for the record, please.
Luke Willett, 716 Winter Drive, a parent of children that attend at St. Patrick's School and a parishioner at St. Patrick's Church. The gentleman presenting over here mentioned about that there being no objection from the churches. I don't know that St. Patrick's Church was actually reached out to. You mentioned to the school. I don't know if you've actually reached out to St. Patrick's Church. And I didn't know of that, and I haven't heard of that from the school board or the parishioners that attend school board. So we will be losing approximately 30 parking spots, which is almost the equivalent of our parking lot in itself. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing none, I'll turn it back to council for discussion. Anyone wish to discuss? So, Councilor Cruz?
Just refresh my memory, how many blocks of Washington is one way before it becomes two? 6 through,
6 is currently two-way, and then the rest.
Sorry,
on
say that again?
1st to 6th is two-way, and then 6th to 18th is one-way.
okay. Could we break this conversion down so that potentially that the couple blocks by the school remain one-way and then convert the rest of it to two-way? Has that been discussed?
As a corridor, I wouldn't recommend that, to have that breakup of 2 blocks. If you recall, Washington and State, the Washington between 1st and 6th was a one-way. It got converted in about 2008. Same with State. Traditionally, those one-ways start to become 2 ways over time, but I wouldn't break it up in the middle like that.
And
If,
go ahead.
I think now Hawthorne Drive by Cedar Heights Elementary might be a little bit of a different type of street because it's not a thoroughfare as much as Washington. But if I recall, there's really 2 to 3 block range that's one-way, and then it converts to two-way at Round as you go west. It's not quite the same as this, but in the interest of safety, I think we may want to consider that. I'd be in favor of looking at it, or whether we table this or split it up. I'd look at options here.
Councilor Harding?
I agree with Councilor Cruz. It's been stated that there's not a time crunch on this, so I would agree with making sure we take the time and the due diligence to study it, look at other options, continue to talk, and make sure that we can do our best. So
I have a question for Mr. Rogers. It's currently is a motion on the floor to approve the design of 7th and Washington and to change the section to one-way. Can a motion to table be entertained at this point?
Sure can.
Okay, so is there a motion to table?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr.
Okay, so
Mayor.
there's a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so let's do, as a hand is the best way to make sure we have the required. So a hand vote for aye.
Well, just to table?
Just a motion to table, correct. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we do have the motion to table that passes. So this will be tabled until a future meeting.
Mr. Mayor, can
Yes.
I add something? I've had a couple of conversations with Director Olson lately, because I've had some parents call me concerned about pickup of their children at Cedar Heights. And as I drive around town, I think it's an issue at every school. And Mark's talked about it at North Cedar. And I've talked to Jeff about the possibility of maybe looking at having the city and the school district have a collaborative discussion about safety at school crossings. We haven't had instances yet, but I worry that we may. And I think having some sort of at least discussion about can we make dropping off and picking up kids or having kids cross busy streets at schools a little more safe. And I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at that, Jeff, but I guess I'd like to propose that we maybe look into that, either form a committee or something to just take a step back and look at school safety in our streets. The more we think about it, the better we'll be. So just a thought.
All right, thank you. Last item on our agenda is bills and payroll. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.